Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to call tonight's City Council meeting to order at 6 p.m. My name is Zach Schwank, and I'm the mayor of the city of Temecula. This evening, our invocation will be led by Antonio Madrigal and our flag salute by Council Member Brown.
Let us hear a word from the Lord. I, your Lord, have seen the beauty of fervor that this council has bestowed on this city, and I am pleased with the results. You have shown to be trusted, and all of your endeavors for my people. And for this reason, I would like to bless you. As council in the city you represent, for I, your Lord, am a loving God and a fulfilling God of my word. Be it known that my blessing for this city has come, and I'm willing to continue as long as you're willing to continue and oblige in me. My son, who is praying for you this day, has seen my rewards and can testify to the generosity, for I have given him the wisdom to overcome all obstacles. And now I give to all of you this wisdom, that you may overcome all your challenges and succeed. To do what the people need you to do, for they are your responsibility that I have placed in your care. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Alexander.
I'm here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Kalfas.
Here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Mayor Schwank.
And I'm here. Thank you very much. We'll move into our presentation portion of the council meeting, and we will start with a presentation of Riverside County Sheriff's Department, our core team. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Durham. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, City staff, and the good folks in the community behind me and those watching at home. I would like to introduce to you your core team, which stands for Community Outreach, Resource, and, excuse me, guys, come on closer, and Engagement. Yeah.
They need to engage you a little closer.
A little bit closer. I have many teams for the city, but this one has a unique purpose. They work collaboratively with code enforcement, building and safety, fire, your fire marshal. They also assist community services with public events. But what you don't know and what the public doesn't know is even before the event occurs, they're also doing an ops plan, writing a safety report to ensure a positive, safe event. In addition to that, these men and women are responsible for quality of life issues in the community. So they are my tool that I send out to represent business owners, vandalism in your parks, and other quality of life issues as they come. So as an example, in the month of January, this council recognized the Sheriff's Department anti-human trafficking team. This is the team that was responsible for conducting sex trafficking operations in Temecula in the month of December and in January. It's something that I've asked them to do to send a clear message that that type of behavior is not welcome in this city. But team members are behind me. Deputy John Puzlon, Lieutenant Cussy, Deputy Hernandez. They're led by Sergeant Vic Pearson, Deputy Shahada, and Community Service Officer Ponce. Good evening.
Yeah.
What's that? And Deputy Van Zant is on maternity leave. So I have another department, I'm another department uncle. I can't wait to meet the...
Hey, Chief, I think one of the unique things about this team is where they start and finish their day. Would you mind speaking to that?
Absolutely. They start and finish their day at City Hall. So they work directly with code enforcement, community services, building safety, your fire marshal are all on the same floor. So when they have an issue, like to go contact or work with the city's homeless outreach team, this is their first contact right here, and they get up and they collaboratively solve the problem.
Yeah, it's a wonderful aspect of it. I spent a little time on the second floor and have met many of you and really appreciate the time and energy you put into our city. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
And while Kevin's taking a picture, I think one of the cool things about these teams that we have is that local control aspect. These are things that we value in our city and we want to see our public safety teams take care of. So thank you to the core team for morphing into what we need here in our community today. Appreciate you. All right. Okay, we have a couple presentations tonight for retired board and commission members. I'll start with John Telesio was a Public and Traffic Safety Commissioner from July 22nd, 1997 until January 25th, 2000. Then he moved on over to the Planning Commission from January 25th, 2000 until 2022, serving a total of 25 years to the city. While John can't be here tonight, we do have a 25-year service pin and a certificate that we're going to send his way. We want to thank John and his family for the time and energy that he has spent here improving our city. And if you don't know sort of what some of our commissioners do, they do a lot, and they are a highly valued asset to Team Temecula. So John, if you're listening, thank you for your service, and we will happily present you with your certificate. There are two more, Chris Krzyzewski and Eric Levine. I'd like you to come up to the podium for me for a second. Well, thank you for being here tonight. You both, much like John, give back to the city in an immeasurable way, and you're both going to be missed. Chris, you served from February 11th, 2020 until December 31st of 2022 for a total of 3 years. Eric, you served from June 9th, 2015 until December 31st, 2022, a total of 8 years. My, how the time flies when we're doing good work in the city. You both, I've formed bonds with you both, obviously coming from community services, and you both serving on community services. We have a kinship, and I appreciate the friendship and the guidance that you've offered, not just council, but our community, in helping to drive projects and programs and services to the people in our community that need it the most. So with that, I'll go ahead and present you both with this certificate of appreciation. And we thank you for your service and just appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach.
And go ahead and feel free and say a few words to the community if you'd like.
Oh, up here?
You too, Chris.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's unusual to be being called retired as young as I am, but 8 years, it was a fabulous 8 years, and it was truly my honor to serve the citizens in the city of Temecula. Thank you.
I want to echo what Eric said. When I came on to the commission, all hell broke loose, literally. It was the beginning of COVID, and the city shut down, and we were online as a commission. And the things that I saw the Community Services Department do and the city of Temecula do were amazing, to say the least. But just the way that we came together as a city, the way we came together, Community Services Department, and thought of outside of the box ways to serve the community. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor to serve the city in that capacity, and I'm so thankful I get to live here. Thank you guys.
Thank you both. Okay, we'll go ahead and move to our board and commission reports. Planning Commission, Chair Turley Trejo, welcome.
Hello, glad to be here. All right, looking for those slides. There we go. These are our commissioners and a great team. We have a new commissioner that just joined us and was just sworn in at our last meeting, Fernando Solis, and we're happy to have him. He has some planning and architecture experience, so I think he will be a great asset for our commission. We do miss John, and we appreciate all his service, all the years of his service and his wisdom. He was on when I first started about 9 years ago, so I learned a lot from him, so grateful for him. And if you want to come to our meetings, they're awesome. And we meet the first and third Wednesdays at 6 p.m., and we invite anyone who would like to come and see all the wonderful things that we get to vote on. Thank you. Next slide. Just talked about Commissioner Solis. And he had like his whole family there, his extended family. I was like, wow, it was pretty cool. So flowers, everything, big sign. It was great to see. Next slide. And so I'm here tonight because I'm your new chair for 2023, and vice chair is Bob Hagel. So I'm honored to do that this year. Next slide. And then we also, kind of like the city council does, we went through subcommittees, and there were 3 new subcommittees created, and then we went on to select new members for those new subcommittees, and then we reviewed all of them and kind of went through everything and adjusted things and feel really good about everybody that's serving on those subcommittees. Next slide. We also voted on a modification on the application for the Vine Creek Housing Project, and it was just an adjustment to the timing threshold for completion. So that was voted on 5-0. Next slide. And we also approved 2 development plan applications for industrial buildings. We've been doing several of those, and actually we were able to go out there, I think it was in October, kind of a field trip, and actually see these done. And, at first I was like, are they gonna look good? They need to look good. And they actually look really sharp. So if you get a chance to go out on Avenida Alvarado, right in that area, you'll see them, and they're cool. They're not like all in one line, they're all graduated, and so we're getting those built. So we voted on 2 more at our last meeting, and voted 5-0 on that to approve the applications. Next slide. I think that's it. Any questions?
All right, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, Public Traffic Safety Commission, Chair Carter, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, City Council, city staff. The commission has 5 commissioners. I was just appointed as the chair for this year, 2023. The other commissioners, Commissioner Ackerman, Maddox, Richardson, and Sullivan. Actually, David Maddox is the co-chair for this year. And as you know, the Public Traffic Safety Commission reviews and makes recommendations on topics related to speed zones, stop signs, signals, pavement markings, design, and engineering. Our next meeting is January 26th. We meet the last Thursday of each month. And next slide. Our agenda we just met on January 26th. I'm sorry, our next one is in February. I was already thinking way ahead. One of our agenda items this year, the last week, was to receive presentation on final draft of the local hazard mitigation plan. It was a very thorough and concise report, and it's something that obviously the city's very proud of, but it shows us that any type of emergency that happens here, I think we're well aware that we'll be able to mitigate any of the costs and everything associated with that. We were only to receive and file that, so it was a great presentation. If you haven't already received it, I'm sure you will if you haven't. Next slide. We also had an update on approve an ordinance regarding golf carts on city streets. The old ordinance, Chapter 1044 of the Municipal Code, was outdated in that it would only included Temecula golf course. And now we have crosswalks or golf cart crossings on city-maintained streets around Red Hawk and Temecula Creek. So this one addresses that. And we had a vote of 5-0 on that, approving staff's recommendations. Next slide. The next was brought up by a constituent to Councilmember Alexander regarding traffic on Campanula Way. Staff went out, they did all types of surveys and everything. It didn't meet the warrant for what they were asking for as far as crosswalks and everything. But I think it's something that we'll keep an eye on, and if need be, we have this, what we call a road diet, or, narrow the lanes to try to slow traffic down. There's different ways we could do it without doing stop signs and crosswalks in that short, thorough way. The commission voted 4-0. We had one member abstain because he lives in the neighborhood. Next slide. And this one. I was elected the chair, and David Maddox was the vice chair. And we also welcomed Commissioner Richardson and Sullivan. Thank you. I was thinking Brad, because I call him Brad. Commissioner Sullivan as, for another 3 years on the Traffic Safety Commission. And next slide. And any questions?
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Race, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission, Chair Steed, welcome.
Good evening, everybody, and happy Valentine's Day. I bet you'd know where else you want to be, only here.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so the Race, Equity, and Diversity Commission reviews and makes recommendations on topics of diversity and inclusion within the city events, services, programs, and policies, and enhanced community relations. It is made up of 7 members of our community. Our last meeting was February 9th. We had a great meeting. We had a great turnout. We'll go to the next slide, please. The Commission presented a proclamation for African American History Month, also known as Black History Month, to the student members of the Black Student Unions of Chaparral, Great Oak, Rancho Vista, and Temecula Valley High Schools. We had a video outlining the origins of Black History Month. We had a video from Chuck Washington, our supervisor, encouraging the students. We had comments from Mayor Schwank, encouraging the students and the community, and we had a reading and presentation of the proclamation. Students' rendition of Lift Every Voice, which was sang just beautifully, and there was a presentation from each BSU highlighting their BSU and their personal importance of BSU. Presentation by Commissioner Faulkner reviewing African American related census data and historical information was such an amazing timeline and very, very informative. And then a presentation by Community Services Director Russo regarding Black History Month events in the city during the month of February. To wrap it up, we had a full room of people here. There was people from every different ethnicity. There was people from every different group, and they really celebrated the proclamation and the importance of Black History Month. So we were honored to be able to have that and be able to give them that space. So our next meeting is going to be on March 9th, and we're going to be giving the proclamation for Women's History Month, and we would love for any and all to join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Steed. Okay, Public Safety Report this evening. Chief Durham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, City staff, and the residents in the room and watching from home. The month of January in 2023, Sheriff's Dispatch received 5,939 calls, which is a slight decrease from last January of 2022, where we received 6,304 calls. Other than that, that's my safety report. Is there any questions?
None for me. Any questions from Balance of Council? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate you. Okay, we'll now move to our public comment portion on non-agenda items. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments on non-agenda items?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have several public comments on non-agendized items. The rules are reflected in the agenda itself. Each speaker has 3 minutes, and we'll go ahead and start with Marshall Hamilton, to be followed by Slim Killens. Marshall Hamilton?
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Marshall Hamilton. I'm a supervisor at the Safe Family Justice Centers, which is your nonprofit victim service provider here in the Southwest region and most of Riverside County. We have 2 offices located in this region, one in Murrieta and one off Pajol Street. I just wanted to come in and talk to you a little bit about Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, which is February, so fitting on Valentine's Day. Most parents dismiss the importance and the risks of teen dating violence with the assumption that their teen isn't dating, or that the biggest risk about teens dating is teen pregnancy. Due to this stigmatization, many parents don't talk to their kids about healthy relationships or dating. This lack of information available about healthy relationships is often compounded by youth mimicking the toxic forms of love that they see at home, friends' homes, on the internet, and of course in their movies and TV screens. In 2022, Safe Family Justice Centers provided services to over 4,000 victims in the county. 1,400 of those were located here in the Southwest region, and over 400 of those were children impacted by abuse or interfacing directly with an abuser. When youth are exposed to or involved in dating violence of any kind, they often fall back into those comfortable patterns of abuse later in life, becoming adult victims of domestic violence and or perpetrating that cycle of violence on yet another generation of children and partners. To aid in interrupting this cycle, Safe Family Justice Centers and its Police Activities League will be hosting a teen dating violence trivia night for youth tomorrow in the community. They can receive community service hours for attending. That will be at our Temecula office off Pajol Street from 5:30 to 7. And just as a reminder, if you or someone you know may need help navigating an abusive relationship or to learn more about how you can make an impact, we're available. We're here to help. You can find us on Instagram at safefjc_Rivco or in our Temecula office off Pajol Street. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Next speaker?
The next speaker is Slim Killens, to be followed by Mick Sobzak.
Before you start my time, he's going to help me set up.
Can that be expanded? Let's see.
Mr. Killens, are you showing a static image?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. In less than 5 months, while exercising my First Amendment rights, I was physically assaulted by 2 white female teenage students at 2 different high schools. Last year, one student punched me in the head. The video is not allowed here. On Tuesday, a week ago, another student threw a bottle of used motor oil all over me. You can show that photo. That's done too. I pressed charges. Last Wednesday, a white adult male came at me aggressively, yelling, screaming, and threatening me. I have pressed criminal charges. He grabbed my 2 signs from the traffic light post and threw them. Why is there no outcry by the tolerant ones against hatred, bigotry, and violence perpetuated against me? It's apparent everyone is afraid of the liberal woke activists, even police and sheriff's department. There's a lot of disinformation going around about Christians. Christians are neither homophobic, transphobic, nor do we oppose teaching Black history in school. But we will never bow down to the sexual improprieties of the LGBTQ or racist bigotry of CRT. As a Christian, I stand with Christian pride. I must ask, why do you hate us? Are you alethea-phobic, haters of the truth? That's why Christians are called homophobic, transphobic, racist bigots by your religious cult. When we disagree with the LGBTQ or race, equity, and inclusion, it's called hate speech. But when you disagree with conservative Christians, it's called social justice. And I am very angry and I hate liars. by you supporting the sexualization of children and teaching them to hate based on skin color makes you a pervert and a racist. There is a fundamental difference between Black history and critical race theory. Black history teaches the achievements of Black people who have overcome brutal hardships and how Jim Crow laws of the racist Democrat Party perpetuated the superiority of the white race. In order to maintain its wealth and keep Negroes on their slave plantations, they have introduced into the Black community two deadly drugs, CRT and Ready, a mind-altering concoction, impairing judgment, producing a euphoric high and giving the majority of Black people a false sense of racial superiority. I challenge anyone on this board and this audience and throughout the state of California to a 2-hour debate open to the public, challenging the lies promoted by the racist Democrat Party, such as critical race theory, Planned Parenthood, comprehensive sex education, the definition of marriage, vaccine mandates, and conservative Christians are racist. We can negotiate the
your time
terms,
is up.
the location, the date, and the cost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Nick Sobczak, to be followed by Derek Kinnison.
Welcome.
How are you? I guess I started my clock. All right, so I'm here to ask when you're going to start funding the Ready Commission. Back in December, I listened to their report, and they talked about how they went into Michelle's Place, a nonprofit for women with breast cancer. And they talked about how their prosthetics were of different colors. Now, I'm here to tell you, my wife went to Michelle's Place when she had her mastectomy. She didn't care what color prosthetic she got, as long as it made her look and feel natural. That's it. No more, no less. But who the hell are you, as a city, to have a commission that goes out there and tells us what to do? Your job as a city council is to bring people to this city, to keep the residents here, to bring businesses here, to keep businesses here, to fix our streets and keep our infrastructure good. No more, no less. So you need to defund that, because that's our tax dollars that are being spent on that, and you're not being good stewards of our money. There are better things to spend your money on. And if you are going to keep it, start right here where I see all these white people. How about we have our city manager give up his spot to the assistant city manager? Show us the diversity and the inclusivity that you have there. And not to pick on you, but it was an easy one. And then I see Slim over here getting attacked. So I'm pretty sure all that oil took a lot of cleaning. Are you going to bill the parents of that student for all of that oil, the hazmat, the damage it did, all the soil abatement? It's not cheap to give up oil, clean up oil. But the concrete there, I went by that spot, and that concrete on that corner is stained. And if the left wanted to remove statues because they said they were hateful, I want that concrete removed, because that's the scene of a hate crime, and that's a monument to these people. So that concrete needs to be removed, and the parents need to be billed for the full cleanup of that. And I'm going to ask you repeatedly, week after week, at these meetings, when are you going to do it? Thank you.
Next speaker.
Next speaker is Derek Kinnison, to be followed by Temecula Elementary School Student Council.
Welcome.
Before you start my time, let me figure this thing out here. All right, so pretty much just right here, I just want to start out by saying pretty easy, openbible.com. There's over 100 Bible verses for true Bible-believing Christians, condemning racism, condemning judging people by anything other than the content of their character, and it's actually a sin to give people preferential treatment. So just that right there, I'm tired of being called a racist and a bigot for my Christianity. I'm here to stand with my Christian brother in Christ, Slim. I condemn racism and I condemn racial guilt. None of us chose the colors, the pigments that were put into our skin. Nobody chose where they were going to be born. And I know, Zach, you heard this. I just want to reiterate it. So I'm kind of just speaking to you. I've seen pictures of you wearing a Temecula Unity shirt, and also seen you swear an oath to the United States Constitution. Temecula Unity is a group of Marxists. I'm asking you, please don't capitulate to racist Marxists who want to start to put people in boxes. That's modern day segregation. They're putting them in boxes by their race, their sexual preferences, and it's causing more division. They are the racist ones. They are the racist ones. Temecula Unity claims to make way, wants white people to make way, make a voice for BIPOC, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Yet, on their chatter about Slim's attack, they're trying to bury it. They put pictures of Slim signs, but they don't put pictures of Slim because they don't want to be called racist for disagreeing with a black man. But on there, they're just trying to make it so that everybody ignores them. They want, oh, just ignore them, keep calling the cops on them, which is false police calls. They're silencing his voice. They claim to be there for all residents, but what about the Christians? What about the conservatives? Which box does he need to check to have a voice under Temecula Unity? So Zach, please don't capitulate to these Marxists. Thank you.
And next speaker.
The next speaker is the Student Council from Temecula Elementary School, and I believe they have a very important message to share with us tonight.
All right, welcome. And you can pull that mic down so you can speak right into it.
Okay. Good evening, City of Temecula council members and city staff. My name is Cameron.
I'm Avani.
I'm Kaden, and we are students at Temecula Elementary School. We are quickly approaching Read Across America Week, which begins Monday, March 1st.
We are asking community members to please help us celebrate and promote the importance of reading. We would like for you to please record yourself reading your favorite children's book so we can share your book readings virtually with all TVUSD students.
Thank you for your time, and we hope you will partner with us and help us celebrate Read Across America Week.
All right, thank you.
The next speaker is Laurel Lamont, to be followed by Jessica Christopher.
Okay, welcome.
Hi, I'm just here to request for something to be placed on a future agenda. I would like to discuss a affordable housing rent control ordinance in Temecula. I received my most recent rent increase, which I receive annually. Every year my rent goes up, but my income stays relatively the same. This is in regards to our workforce. You know, those are the people that are in affordable housing. It's our workforce. They're lesser earning, but they're workforce nonetheless. I'm a single mom. Obviously, I just came from work and picking my kid up from school. I had to rush here to put in this request. I will be going home as soon as I leave this little speech moment, but be assured I'll be waiting till the end. Hopefully, one of you, if not multiple, will request to put a rent control ordinance on the agenda to be discussed, specifically for affordable housing. Not all rentals, but affordable housing, because affordable housing is not affordable if the rent keeps going up and we can't or are maintained, have to be under a certain income. There's no upward mobility. We're not able to get above the water. I'm mom, I'm dad, I am the sole breadwinner. I don't have child support. Most of us don't. We need help. If we don't have attainable home ownership within the communities we serve, we're here. So let's help us at least have a fixed monthly payment that we can rely on, that we can count on, that we can feel secure in. If we're going to be forced into affordable housing overlay zones, and we're not going to be within the community, outside of that, can we at least have some monthly security? Can we get that? Can we at least start the discussion about it? because it's killing me. It's killing all of us. We get that increase, and now we have to overcome it. But if you make more, then you're priced out. Now you're homeless. So please consider putting it on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Jessica Christopher, and then I have a comment from Melissa Borbenes.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Still uncomfortable with this, but getting there. Mayor and city council members, the non-agendized item that I want to speak about is, given I missed the last meeting, SB 9 and SB 10 extensions were discussed. First, thank you for working so hard to stop that. I would suggest that SB 9 and SB 10 that take local control away from the people. Given our Constitution states that the power is in the people and that this takes that power from us, it's unconstitutional. Therefore, fighting it and not working on a workaround is the best course. We have a local expert on the Constitution, Douglas Gibbs, who is currently helping the state of Utah with something similar. I hope that you will consider reaching out to him and getting suggestions. This poor woman, I've heard so many times, I want to tell her, boxables, you could buy them for $50K. You approve the land, they'll give you a loan. It's an easy fix for her. It's an easy fix, but she left. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Next speaker, or is it an email comment?
Yes, we have enough time left in the 30-minute allotment, and we have one email public comment from Melissa Borbenes, and she states, the forwarded email consists of the annual rental increase that myself and the affordable tenants are forced to overcome every year. Now, I will repeat myself in stating the following due to the lack of public acknowledgement from the city. These tenants in particular have been subjected to illegal parking and cable fees, poorly maintained facilities, direct abuse and retaliation from the on-site manager, forced to deal with concerts and lack of parking accommodations every time there's a community event. We live above bars and nightclubs because this is the location of the affordable housing overlay zone. Beyond the rental increases, every year we must continue to provide proof of income and not make any more in order to remain housed. We are afforded zero upward mobility. The only person who seems to be recognizing these constituents and their existence is myself. I am requesting that the council place a rent control ordinance specifically for affordable housing on the agenda. The intention of affordable housing and the subsequent taxpayer dollars utilized to make this happen is to make housing attainable to the lesser earning workforce. However, the integrity of the intentions has been compromised when affordable housing is more beneficial to the private investors. The ordinance will ensure a better quality of life for the local workforce and their families who are forced to live in affordable housing due to lack of attainable home ownership. Please place this ordinance on the agenda for consideration. Mr. Mayor, that is the last of the in-person and emailed comments for non-agendized items.
Thank you very much, Madam City Clerk. We'll go ahead and move on to city council reports. Do any of my colleagues have anything to share? Would you like to go first, Mayor Pro Tem Stewart?
First off, I'd like to tell my wife, sitting at home, most likely watching this, Happy Valentine's Day. And second of all, I had the pleasure of attending the Chinese New Year celebrations, which I didn't realize they celebrate for 2 whole weeks. And it was really a cool cultural experience seeing how these Chinese people have brought their culture here with us. And same with the Black History Month. I was at the Ready Commission meeting, and the place was packed. There was not hardly an empty seat in the house. By far the most fun, the most informative proclamation I've ever seen the city give. And so I think it's really important that these proclamations be done at the Ready Commission because of that, because it is a safe place to give these proclamations, because if you don't want to attend, you don't attend. If you want to come, great. It's the house was absolutely fantastic at that History Month. And so you know, and I started thinking about this thing. And I started thinking, you know what? My last name is Stewart. And so I identify my family is the Stewart family. And when I look at an African American or Mexican American or Chinese American, their last name is American.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kalfas, anything this evening?
Yes, I would have forgot to say Happy Valentine's Day to my wife, so thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stewart. Happy Valentine's Day. I just want to hit on, myself and Councilwoman Jessica Alexander, as well as City Manager Aaron Adams here, we attended the Cal City's new City Council and Mayor's Academy, February 1st through 3rd, just like Councilmember Brown went to about 2 weeks before we did. And basically, it just went over a very informative process that City Council that we have, our duties that we have as City Council members and new mayors, from budget analysis to creating and adopting ordinances, ethics, Temecula residents' favorite topic, the Brown Act. But really, the whole academy just reiterated the fact of how proud I am to be serving the citizens of Temecula. And just know that whatever side of the political aisle you sit on, Temecula and cities all across California are focusing on local control. And we realize how much of an oversight California, the state, wants over our little Temecula here, but we are doing everything we can in our power to maintain local control. But overall, it's just a great experience that I experienced with the city manager and Councilwoman Alexander.
Thank you. Councilmember Alexander?
Well, you took off about a quarter of my stuff, so thank you. So anyways, no, it was a great event that we were able to go to, and I just want to reach out and just say thank you very much, City Manager. It was a great experience. It was nice to be able to have that perspective, and if I had questions, Kalfas or myself, about our city directly, we were able to have those questions answered and not have to wait till I come back. So it was very helpful, and it was a great opportunity. The next one is going to be on February 7th. I had the privilege to be with the Homeless Outreach. So I try to go on about 3 to 4 of these per year, along with other ways to connect with our Sheriff's Department. The ride-along gave me an opportunity to see how our new core team, SWAG, and the Temecula Community Services are doing to prevent the rise of homelessness in our city. And I just want to tell you, as what I saw the other day, they're just doing an outstanding job. So what you're seeing here will be gone within a couple days. It goes within 24 hours. So it's pretty amazing how these teams come together quickly to clean up our city and get these people off the streets if they can. I visited the creeks and 2 other abandoned buildings. This ride-along gave me the opportunity to see any gaps and help be a bridge along the side of staff and council in order to continue to keep Temecula one of the safest cities in the U.S. So I just also want to say thank you so much to Chief Durham, like we talked about earlier, but I want to say publicly thank you for moving forward with those buildings. It's going to be a great asset for our city. Also, February 4th, this was my second year, I was able to go to the 12th Annual Justice Matter of Human Awareness for Human Trafficking, also known as Human Slavery. This was held at the Marietta Calvary Chapel. I was able to connect with County Supervisor Chuck Washington, members of the Marietta and Wildomar City Council, the Sheriff Human Trafficking Task Force, along with many nonprofits in our region who was able to come to this event. This was a wonderful resource to receive more education opportunities to fight against human trafficking within the Riverside County. I would hope to see our city eventually taking a stand against human slavery and educate the public even more in the future. Prevention is the key, and I agree with that. The last one, today we just had another meeting about ADUs, and I was told by Luke's team that they have a workshop coming up. This is going to be permit-ready ADUs for another effort to help lower costs for homeowners, provide high-quality design options for residents so that way it looks nice in the city and nobody's just throwing something onto their property. But the reason I really do love this is this gives people the opportunity to have multi-generational housing within their housing area and their opportunities, because as we were talked about, our Laurel Lamont came up earlier, yes, it is expensive, but how awesome is it if we can bring mom or dad or keep our kids home and be able to expand maybe in something within our house and be able to do that. So to keep those multi-generational families, I absolutely just love it. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Brown, anything? Okay, I have a couple slides, so if we could put up the first slide. So we have this really cool rotating selfie mural. This is just actually right outside at the Visitors Center, and this was painted by Tony and Jennifer Moramarco. And I have a quote here from them, and I wanted to highlight this. And Tony says, "If anyone needs a reminder, just one act of kindness, inclusion, or love will work wonders to brighten someone's day amongst all the negativity, separation, and hate. Tony and Jennifer Moramarco painted this beautiful heart as a colorful reminder to the city that they love in all of its residents." So this will be out there for a while. Go out, take a selfie, and share it with friends and families and the ones that you love. I just thought it was really cool and wanted to highlight that. I also attended the Ready Commission meeting, and I would agree. I think they did a wonderful job. I do appreciate the presentation at the Ready Commission, but I also find value in us acknowledging Black History Month here at the City Council. So as we sort of scroll through these, and you can see it was a very full house. It was a safe space. It was a place where people felt welcome, where people felt like they could be genuine and speak to the community in a way that was meaningful and appreciated by everyone that was there. I'm going to actually read the City of Temecula proclamation that we handed out that day. And it says, whereas National African American History Month, also known as Black History Month, celebrates the contributions that African Americans have made to American history in their struggles for equality and deepens our understanding of our nation's history. And whereas in 1915, noted Black scholar Dr. Carter G. Woodson founded the Association for the Study of African American Life and History and initiated Negro History Week in February 1926, a month that included both the birthday of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And whereas the 1969 educators and students at Kent State University proposed Black History Month, resulting in the first month-long celebration in February 1970. And whereas 50 years after the first celebration, President Gerald R. Ford officially recognized Black History Month during the bicentennial of the United States, 1976, urging Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. And whereas every president since has recognized and celebrated the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to the economic and cultural development of our nation. And whereas African American residents contribute greatly to the economic viability and the high quality of life of our community as professionals, business owners, educators, students, volunteers, veterans, and more. And whereas these contributions include those of the youth in our community, including the Black Student Union members of Chaparral, Great Oak, Temecula Valley, and Rancho Vista High Schools. Now therefore, I, Mayor Zach Schwank, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Temecula, hereby proclaim this month of February 2023 to be National African American History Month. It was a wonderful evening. Many of the folks that are here tonight were also there, and I am looking forward to Women's History Month next month, and I think it's going to be another beautiful celebration in our city. So thank you very much. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to our consent calendar. All matters listed under consent are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. Item number 1 is waive reading of standard ordinances and resolutions. Item number 2, approve action minutes of January 24th, 2023. Item number 3, approve list of demands. Item 4, adopt ordinance number 2023-02, amending section 10.28.010D of the Temecula Municipal Code regarding prima facie speed limits on certain streets. This is our second reading. Item number 5, approve fiscal year 2022-23 mid-year budget adjustments. I'm not going to pull that item, but I would encourage the community to go look at that agenda report. It's quite wonderful. Item 6 is approve the U.S. House of Representatives District Office Lease Amendment at the Temecula Civic Center. Item number 7 is approve license agreement with Safe Alternatives for Everyone, Inc. for use of city real property. Item 8 is approve Second Amendment with San Diego State University Foundation for the radio communications site lease. Item 9 is approve agreement with Rancon Commerce Centers Phase 2, 3, and 4, Inc. in connection with Overland Drive Extension Project PW 16-06. Item number 10 is approve mitigation credit purchase agreement and acknowledgement with RBV Mitigation Credits LLC for the Santa Gratuitous Creek Trail Phase 2 Margarita Road Undercrossing PW 19-04. Item 11, award construction contract to LD Co. Inc. for the Mary Phillips Senior Center Enhancement and Renovation, that's PW 20-13. Item number 12, accept improvements and file notice of completion for Ronald Reagan Sports Park Restroom Expansion and Renovation Project, PW 18-03. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion and a
Move
second.
approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let us vote. Okay, and that passes 5-0. I'm going to adjourn the Temecula City Council to the Temecula Community Services District and President Stewart.
And I will call to order the Temecula Community Service District meeting. Madam Secretary, please know we're all still here. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
All right. So we'll go on to the consent calendar, which is item number 13, approve action minutes of January 24, 2023. And item number 14, approve fiscal year 2023 TCSD mid-year budget adjustment.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Director's report.
Yes, we have 2 items we'd like to share with the community. The first is the High Hopes Valentine's Dance on February 17th from 6 to 9 p.m. High Hopes program is a social recreational program for adults ages 18 and over with developmental disabilities. High Hopes fosters socialization and community engagement through a variety of activities such as dances, game nights, karaoke, bowling, movie nights, and more. The second item you see there on the slide is the Silver Shuttle program. Now, over at Mary Phillips Senior Center, we run 2 transportation programs. One is the Daily Shuttle, which picks up seniors who come to our congregate lunch, picks them up at their homes, brings them to the facility so that they can enjoy the lunch in a congregate setting, and then takes them home afterwards. But the second program we launched around the beginning of the COVID shutdown is the Silver Shuttle program. That runs on the first and third Wednesdays of each month, and it takes seniors who are interested in going on different excursions each week. Typically, it would be to, a store, maybe the mall, the library, anywhere that they express an interest in going. We can schedule it ahead of time, and it gives us an opportunity to get everybody out on the bus, and it's a really good service. It's available to any senior who comes to the senior center, and we would just like the community to be aware of that.
Very good, thank you. General Manners.
Nothing further tonight, Mr. President.
All right, anything from the Board of Directors? None seen. I'll adjourn until the next one.
All right, so I will call the joint meeting of the Temecula Public Financing Authority to order. Madam City Clerk, please note that we are all still here. We will move in. Are there any public comments? Okay, so no public comments. We'll move into the public hearing, and at this point, I'll turn it over to Director Hennessy for staff report.
Right, thank you. And I'd actually like to introduce our municipal advisor, Jim Fabian, with Fieldman Rolap Association, and we also have representatives from the developers, Woodside Homes, in the audience.
Welcome. Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Jim Fabian, Fieldman Rolap and Associates, the city's municipal advisor. Tonight, in front of you, we have several actions related to CFD 16-01, commonly known as Rorapaw Ranch Phase 2. This is also known as Summers Bend project within the city. This is a map of the CFD boundaries, roughly 900 plus, I think it's 946 parcels within the boundaries of the CFD that are subject to the special tax lien that is used to pay the debt service on the existing bonds and then the bonds that we're considering tonight. Previously, the CFD was formed back in 2016. We issued bonds back in 2017. It was approximately $43 million of bonds that were sold back then. Those proceeds are almost spent on the acquisition of infrastructure. Recently, back in the fall, the current developer, Woodside, came to the city and asked for a annexation of property into the boundaries of the CFD. This property was previously dedicated for school sites. There was a decision made not to build schools there, and so Woodside came to the city, asked for that property to be annexed into the CFD boundaries, and that was taken up by the city council on September the 27th of 2022. And at that point in time, there was a public hearing. The council annexed that property within the boundaries of the CFD, and that made the property subject to the special tax. That property provides additional revenue, special tax revenue, that can be used to support additional bonds that we're discussing tonight. Existing residents within the boundaries of the CFD started paying their special taxes back in 22-23, the current fiscal year. Up until that point in time, the developer paid undeveloped tax. What we're asking for tonight is your consideration to approve an additional bond, what we call parity bonds, that would be used for the city to acquire infrastructure from the developer that is needed for the build-out of the project Summer Bends. This property, these bonds will be paid by the special taxes levied against the property within the CFD. They will also be on parity with the 2017 bonds. So we're looking at issuing approximately $8.9 million of bonds. This is based upon the special tax revenue constraint that we have. The debt service will be subject to 110% of the special tax revenues that are collected from properties within the CFD boundaries. This CFD bonds will be broken into current interest bonds, which we call KIBs, where interest is paid semi-annually to the bondholders, and then also capital appreciation bonds, or CABs, which are being used to allow us to take advantage of the revenue from the CFD in years 2047 to 2053. What happens with the capital appreciation bonds, the investors of those bonds, the payment accretes and then is paid at maturity. So it's a little bit different than current interest bonds, where every 6 months you get an interest payment. This allows for more advantageous structuring to provide us with the ability to issue the $8.9 million of bonds that we're proposing to be approved tonight. Again, these will be 30-year bonds. They'll mature 30 years from 2023 or in 2053. Tonight in front of you, you have a lot of documents. You have amended and restated fiscal agent agreement. This is the agreement really that provides the nuts and bolts of how the bond proceeds are administered by U.S. Bank. It provides the payment of the debt service, the holding of the reserve fund that is for the benefit of the bondholders, and then lays out the payment of the principal and interest to bondholders. We also have in front of you a purchase contract. This is agreement with Stifel Nicholas, who is the underwriter for the city, where they agree to buy the bonds from the city and then resell them to investors. The other document we have that is in front of you is the preliminary official statement. This is the document that is used by Stifel Nicholas to sell bonds to investors. It really contains everything an investor needs to know to make an informed decision about whether to purchase the bonds or not. So it really describes in full and in detail the special tax payments, the status of the development, the listing of the developers, everything the investor needs to know to make an informed decision about whether or not they want to buy the bonds. The last document is the continuing disclosure agreement, and this is a document that specifies what information the city, on behalf of the district, needs to make to the bondholders on an annual basis. And it describes what information is necessary every year and lays out the requirement to do that, to disclose this information to the bondholders. This is the timeline that we're proposing for the council to consider. Tonight, with the public hearing, we'd have the adoption of the authority and the city council resolution approving all of the bond documents that I mentioned. Tentatively, we're scheduled for March 1st to actually price the bonds and sell them to the investors. And then on March the 15th, the bonds would close. The money would then flow to the U.S. Bank as the fiscal agent and then be available to fund the additional infrastructure needed for the Summers Bend development. And that would be subject to the acquisition agreement that would describe how the payments are made to the developer once the infrastructure is completed. Again, tonight we're asking to hold the public hearing to approve the resolution by the City Council, and then also for the authority to adopt the resolution that would allow us to go forward with the issuance of the 2023 special tax bonds. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. I will open the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Mr. Mayor, we do not have any public comments on this agenda item.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item before I close the public hearing? Come on up. Speaking on this item.
Okay, so I will make very brief. Only my question is, I would like to know the interest rate on the bonds, the amortization schedule, and basically the revenue on the other side, which I don't have any numbers here. So that's it. If somebody can provide that, maybe I can do an analysis.
Okay.
Because it's very important to understand where we are in financial today in the market, okay? Which I spent 40 years in the market, so I understand numbers, understand investments, and then I understand interest rates. This can break a bank or the citizen. So it's very important to analyze very strictly the interest rate, the amortization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and we're going to...
I believe you had one more comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Come on down. I didn't realize this is such a popular topic.
So I have some information about that area over there. I know something about that. This passing those bonds and having that, them getting paid year after year after year after year, the builders are making an awful lot of money, and they can flip this bill themselves instead of passing this on to the homeowners. Those taxes over there are out the door. If you haven't seen those numbers, I have, and I know what they look like. They are out the door. I've seen other developments as well, and they are not as high as what is over there. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we will entertain a motion to approve this item.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. And while this is moving on, all right, that passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Executive Director's Report.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification for the one member of the public that suggested this is not debt to the city of Temecula. Right. These were bonds that the developer has requested for the infrastructure related to Summers Bend, primarily Nicholas Road, which needs to be improved to its ultimate width. So this is not a financial burden or a debt that is going to hit the city of Temecula. I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Any Board of Directors reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn to our next regular scheduled meeting. And I will reconvene the Temecula City Council meeting. And we'll move on to item number 16, which is a public hearing to adopt resolution for necessity. I'm going to turn this over to our Public Works Director, Patrick Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor Schwank. I'd like to introduce Ron Moreno, our Principal Civil Engineer, and he'll be providing the staff report to you on this item.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. So tonight, we are going over the adoption of the resolution of necessity. The Somers Bend development was conditioned for construction of certain public improvements in connection with the proposed extension of Nicholas Road from Butterfield Stage Road to Calle Girasol, and that's what we're calling the project. That's the Nicholas Road connection. The extension and improvements project will construct drainage, flood control channel improvements along the Santa Gertrudis Creek. The environmental effects of the project and the acquisition of the property interests needed were studied as an integral part of the environmental impact report for the Roripaw Ranch specific plan pursuant to CEQA and the Public Resources Code sections. As you can see from the graphic here, we are noting that the extension runs approximately from Leifer all the way to the MWD boundary, which connects into Butterfield Stage Road. And on November 26, 2002, the City Council adopted Resolution 02-111, certifying the final EIR and adopting the environmental findings pursuant to CEQA. And in connection therewith, for the Roripaw Ranch specific plan, it's going to be basically located near the future intersection of Butterfield and Nicholas. The three of the 5 properties have reached settlement at this time. The remaining 2 properties are detailed on the following slides, but as you can see, those were the original 5 that were affected by the drainage and channel and culvert improvements. First of all, we have the property interests at 31270 Tommy Lane. We will be calling this the Garcia parcel, and you will note on there that it's where the Nicholas Road and Calle Girasol intersection will reside in the future post-project condition. Currently, if you go out there and you are traveling on Nicholas eastbound, you will make a curved turn down Calle Girasol and head out to Calle Chapos. That will no longer exist, but you'll see that there will be a T intersection in the current right-of-way that's actually mapped out there currently. And as you can see, there will be an approximate 26,957 square foot permanent maintenance and access easement. That's kind of signified by the fact that you can see the riprap at the end of the channel. And then you can also see the maintenance road that is proposed, and you can see the dwellings of the Garcias just to the top of that page there. So the maintenance road and the riprap will need to be maintained, which is the reason we're asking for the permanent maintenance and access easement for the city to take care of that culvert. But there will also be a 31,520 square foot temporary construction easement, a TCE, that will be needed for the term of 12 months in order to construct those improvements, in order to make that happen. The second property is at 39280 Deputy Road. That is known as the Singh parcel. And as you can see, it's the other end of the culverts that we were just talking about. So it is the downstream end of the proposed development, the proposed construction. It will need 16,956 square foot permanent maintenance and access easement. So that will allow the city once again to be able to go to the downstream section and clean out when needed. An approximate 649 square foot public utility easement in favor of Southern California Edison. As part of this project, a power pole needs to be removed or relocated, and therefore a small easement will be required. And then finally, a 29,630 square foot temporary construction easement. Once again, a TCE that will last 12 months, including a covenant that would authorize the construction of the riprap related improvements and to construct an access driveway to those Nicholas improvements. Now, in order to be able to adopt the resolution of necessity, there are certain findings that are required. And in order to do this, there are those 4 that are needed. First, that the public interest and necessity require the project. B, the project is planned and located in a manner that will be most compatible with the general public good and the least private injury. So that's the second one. The third one, the subject easement described in the resolution of necessity is necessary for the project. And lastly, D, the city has made an offer as required by Government Code Section 7267.2 to the owners of the record of the subject easements that the city requires in order to construct the project. So we'll take them one at a time. A, the public interest and necessity require the project. The project is in the public interest and the necessity for the construction of the public street, drainage, access, public utility and related improvements in connection with the project. So it is going to be in the public interest that Nicholas Extension actually goes through and heads to Butterfield Stage in order to allow for a circulation all the way from Somers Bend or general vicinity of Butterfield Stage. The project requires the subject property interests located at 31270 Tommy Lane, so we're talking about the Garcia parcel, as well as 39280 Deputy Road, the Singh parcel, in order to complete those improvements. Both of these properties are affected by the culverts that will be installed and constructed, so therefore they are required. We should say also that it is not just the culverts that are being put in, but it's also the riprap, the necessary stabilization in order to make the properties stable and usable, except for the flood control areas. And finally, the improvements are required for the construction of drainage purposes, as stated. B, the project is planned and located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury. As for that, the findings are the project is planned and designed to construct those improvements, which will include the street, drainage, access, utilities. All of these are necessary in order to complete and have the roadway plan in the city's general plan. So therefore, this is a critical element that does need to be provided. The project was planned to minimize impact on the private parcels. It will not unreasonably interfere with or impair the continuance of public use by the owners, and then the construction of the project will not result in any displacement of any persons or businesses. The reason these findings were found is because this area of improvement is already in the floodway. It's in the Santa Gertrudis Creek, so therefore this improvement will allow for the stabilization and for the creek to flow in the manner that is most reasonable for the public good. C, the subject easement described in the resolution of necessity is necessary for the project. And the city does need to construct the project as planned and designed to construct the necessary public street drainage, access, public utility improvements. The project cannot be constructed without the acquisition of these drainage easements, of these subject property interests. And the public use for which the city seeks to acquire the subject property interests will not unreasonably interfere with the current utilization by the owners, how it currently stands. Lastly, D, the city has made an offer as required by Government Code Section 7267.2 to the owner of the record of the subject easement. We have on the left the Garcia parcel, 31270 Tommy Lane. And if you'll notice, on October 4th, 2022, the city did extend a written offer to the owners of record. OPC is our right-of-way consultant for the city. They did attempt to meet with the owner on several occasions and negotiate in good faith. Based on the timing of the project and the owner's decision not to consider a negotiated sale of to the city, then therefore the adoption of the resolution of necessity is necessary. The Singh parcel on the right, on September 20th, 22, the city extended a written offer to the owners of record. Once again, OPC was informed by the Singh's representative, their daughter, that the owners had determined to obtain their own independent appraisal and requested that the developer survey the property and stake what the interest would be. That staking was completed on February 8th, just recently, and that was completed. Based on the timing of the project, it is necessary that the city consider the adoption of the resolution of necessity at this time. In conclusion, based on the items presented tonight, staff is requesting City Council adopt the proposed resolutions of necessity, authorizing the acquisition by eminent domain of the subject property interests. And that will conclude my presentation, and I'm certainly available for questions, as is our Director of Public Works, Pat Thomas.
Great. Thank you very much, Ron, for your presentation. Any questions from council? No? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to the public hearing portion, and I will open the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We actually received a written comment from Kuldeep and Sohan Singh of 39280 Deputy Road. That correspondence was sent to the full City Council earlier today, and then we just, prior to this meeting, received nearly an identical correspondence from Isaac and Isabel Navehar from 39622 Leifer Road, and that is being forwarded to the City Council as well. Both of those documents are a part of tonight's record.
Okay.
The only in-person comment I have is from Robert Stack.
Welcome.
Council. I'm here representing the Garcias on this parcel that we were just discussing. It's our position as, for the property owner that this particular property is not needed for the project, that there's roads on both sides of the parcel that could easily access the river or creek and maintain it in the manner that it needs to be maintained. It's also not planned or located in such manner as to provide for the least private injury and the greatest public good. As you've seen from the map, it has a road that begins on Calle Garicel way to the south and east, and then comes through the property and then ends on a large pad, using up a nice agricultural area of the property. It's unnecessary. There could be simply a small dirt road coming off the road to maintain that creek that way. It seems to be overkill. The use is, their continued use would be irreparably harmed with that pad there. They can't use it the way they were using it. We have requested that due to the size of the parcels in the area, this is a large rural parcel area, and the parcels sell based on it being in this area and the large sizes of the parcels in this area. And we think that by taking such a large portion of this property, it's going to irreparably harm my clients, and they're requesting that if they are going to do a part take here, that it should be a full take and not a partial take. Their use will be greatly hindered, actually destroyed in the agricultural way that they use this property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam City Clerk, are there any more public speakers on this item tonight?
I do not have any more speaker slips on this item tonight.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to take this second to come up? All right, we'll close the public hearing, and we will go ahead and entertain a motion to approve. Council comments. The floor is open.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let us vote. Okay, and that item passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to the business portion of our agenda this evening. We have one item. It's item 17, consider term limits for city council members at the request of Council Member Kalfas. At this time, I'll go ahead and turn the floor over to Council Member Kalfas.
All right, this one's a relatively easy one for me. I believe that implementing term limits for city council and politicians in general is really the path forward. I believe that cities around us have all started to adopt term limits, and we are, I would say, behind the curve. We all know that if the term limits is put out to the voters on the ballot, I believe it would have overwhelming support. And I truly believe that after too much time in office, there's just potential to develop special interests and develop relationships that the politicians have the possibility and the opportunity to cater to those interests and relationships more than catering to the people that voted them in. But I spoke with multiple elected officials in the county that have term limits and that also do not have term limits. And after speaking with them, some did 2 terms, 8 years, and then a break, and then they were able to serve more time. And my suggestion to the council would be to do a 3-term, 12-year maximum life service. No breaks, just a simple 12 years, 3 terms. But I am interested and excited to hear what you all have to say.
Mr. Mayor, staff does have a brief presentation
Oh
on
my
this
gosh,
as well.
maybe it's because I've heard this before. I didn't want to hear it again, but I'm so sorry, Madam City Clerk.
No problem. We just wanted to put it on the record. We did share with Councilmember Kalfas as well So if we can bring up the slides. Next slide, please. So we just wanted to put on the record that any sort of term limit decision by the City Council is governed by law. It's actually governed by Government Code Section 36502B. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you. However, if you go to the next slide, please. The summary of the paragraph you just saw beforehand is pretty simple. An initiative for term limits may be proposed by either a City Council or the residents via initiative. The proposal for term limits is not effective until it is voted upon and passed by the residents. A proposal for term limits must be voted upon at a regularly scheduled election. And a proposal for term limits only applies prospectively, not retroactively. Next slide, please. So with respect to, there are several government entities that currently have term limits. The state, for example, the legislators have a total of 3 terms, which is 12 years total in either chamber. You can see there a number of the office holders also have 2 terms. With respect to our counties, there are 58 counties in the state of California. 7 of them have term limits. Those term limits are varied. With respect to cities in Riverside County, the 7 out of 28 cities in Riverside County currently have various term limits. Those cities are listed there. In the full staff report, there was a detailed outline of which cities in Riverside County have term limits and what the details of each of those term limit specifications are. Next slide, please. Common term limits it consists of 4 years, so a term is 4 years. And common term limits are typically 2 to 4 terms, so anywhere from 8 to 16 years. Terms typically run consecutively with no breaks. Terms can also run successively with breaks. So you can see you have a lot of choices here. And then with respect to the breaks, they're typically tied to the length of the standard term. So for example, if a term of office is 4 years, you wouldn't necessarily want to apply a 2-year break to that one. You would want to apply a full 4-year break to that one, should the City Council wish to go ahead and pursue a break. Next slide, please. So this is the last slide. Councilmember Kalfas already put out there that he would like to pursue 3 terms, consecutive, no breaks. The direction we need from the full council tonight is, first, does the council collectively wish to have term limits? If it does, what number of terms does the council wish to have? If the council wishes the terms to run with or without a break, if a break is permitted, how many breaks are permitted and for what time period? And then should the proposal for term limits be placed on the 2024 ballot or some other date, keeping in mind it needs to be on a regularly scheduled election? And then finally, taking the direction from the City Council tonight, the City Attorney and I will return at the next City Council meeting with an ordinance that the City Council would need to approve that sets forth that particular direction. And with that, Councilmember Kalfas, I'll turn it back over to you.
That is all I had to say on the matter. Yeah, I'm interested and excited to hear what the rest of you believe.
Okay, I'll open up to conversation from my colleagues. Anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, okay. So I don't have a problem with it, especially. Oh,
I'm sorry, we do have public comments also.
Oh, I'm sorry.
got it.
We're really messing this one up. And when I say we, I mean me. Okay, public comments. Would you please call the first public speaker?
Yes, the first public speaker is Dale Stewart, to be followed by Dario Bianchi.
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I am here to urge the board to take the noble precedent of initiating term limits for our elected board members. Term limitations are at the heart of our representative republic. The virtues of term limits were expressed in the Federalist Essays, which preceded the formation of our Constitution and are an essential foundational element to our system of self-governance. Much of the misery and tumult we are experiencing in our country today is sustained by certain politicians on both sides of the aisle who just won't move on. I believe it was Lincoln who said that if human history were to be erased, human nature would still remain. Thomas Paine noted as well that things that are familiar give the appearance of being right. The framers of our Constitution were astute persons and understood the nature of man. They knew that those who remain in power are likely to think that they alone have something of particular value to impart that others do not. In this way, they become weak and ineffective to their original purpose. With frequent appointments and reappointments to elected office, humility melts away, only to resurface during their acceptance speeches. When the people elect a new face to a seat of authority, with it comes an exuberance of the new, a freshness of spirit, cleanliness of the heart, and a reputation that is, at that moment, stainless. Term limits are an insurance policy of sorts for those who come to serve with arrogance or an air of self-importance, who far too often linger past their due. In this way, we help ourselves and our elected representatives to stay true to themselves and their campaign promises. So I ask you to vote yes and to support the idea of term limits for the Temecula City Council. I think it will serve you and the community very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
The next speaker is Dario Bianchi, to be followed by Bob Cal.
Hey, welcome.
Hi. Good evening. Okay, so term limit is not only logic but necessary. Discussion should focus if there will be 2 or 3 terms of the member of the council. We don't want to develop a corrupt system similar to what's happening for a long time in Sacramento and DC. For example, special interests, the corrupt politician wasting billions of dollars in pet projects. We know what's happening in California, not necessary to repeat. Instead, to build water infrastructure and affordable house for working people, billions goes to the ocean. In other country, for example, some state or country government help impartially in paying for the rent the people that cannot basically afford the entire rents, or build houses that they are affordable with the money the taxpayer pay to the government. I would like to see this city to be in the forefront of term limits in Southern California, in showing what our founding father teach us on limited and efficient government. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Bob Cal, to be followed by Jessica Christopher.
Welcome.
Hey there. You know I'm for term limits, so we meaning a group of us, including Rick Reese from Temecula, put together a set of term limits in 2010. Actually, it was supposed to be on the ballot in 2008, except the Marietta City Council said, oh, we just don't want it on the ballot in 2008. So we made it 2010, but in between we had Bell, the city of Bell situation, which made it very easy to pass term limits. We didn't know what we wanted. We wanted 2 terms. We thought maybe we wanted 3 terms. But then, you know, when it starts at the point where the election starts, that means that you have the case of Brendan, for instance. He has, at the next election, would be another, at 3 terms, would be another 12 years on top of his, you know, time that he's got in. So he's got another 14 years. It's a long time to be in power. So I'd say 2 terms in, but hey, that's me. 2 terms in, a term out, and if you're really good and people love you, you can get back in for 2 terms. So that's what we did, and we passed it by a supermajority of 2/3. All of our measures in Marietta were passed by that. And there is a case against term limits, constitutionally probably. However, you know, based on the staff taking over during the periods where unknown people don't know what they're doing when they get on when the new people are elected. However, that can be worked around by staff being more helpful, or the people listening, or the people in office that get in kind of know what they're doing before they start, or being trained somehow to do that. It's in some states actually. I don't know if they have term limits, but they have actually the whole state shuts down, like Texas, for a period of time I don't know, maybe, is it possible the city shut down for a period of time and the city council and people can then take 9 months off and enjoy their life and 3 months on, and in between the city staff, partial city staff takes care of the city, and then they come back and do the important work? I mean, there's a case for everything here, but I'll take the 3 terms. Brendan, you're great. Thanks.
And next speaker?
The next speaker is Jessica Christopher.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor and City Council members, given the residents of Temecula have tried many years ago to get term limits via signatures, the significant cost associated with that, and that we've tried last year to get term limits, I encourage term limits for Temecula. Many studies have shown that overwhelming majority of people believe that term limits are a good thing. It serves our sister city of Marietta well. Studies show that removing a sitting elected officials with name recognition is challenging unless there is turmoil in the city like we witnessed this past year. Often the city council seats are excellent places to get experience and to move people up to other elected seats. If the city council members are allowed to sit on the city council like Marianne Edwards and Jeff Comanchero, this does not happen. I strongly encourage term limits similar to those of Marietta. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That was the last in-person comment, and then I have one email comment from Rick Reese. As one of the proponents of the Marietta Term Limits Initiative that overwhelmingly passed in 2010, I am in support of Temecula moving forward to enact term limits as well. It would benefit the people of Temecula to enact such term limits so that members of our community can have greater opportunities to campaign for and serve on the city council. Unfortunately, too many elected politicians engage in political empire building, which in essence becomes a virtual wall blocking other potential candidates from any realistic consideration. The perks and political power base of entrenched incumbents can become too great for ordinary residents to even launch a modest challenge. Like the Marietta Term Limits Initiative, it would also serve the public well to provide a break in which popular past council members could come back and possibly serve again after waiting out an election cycle. Despite what anti-term limit advocates might contend, term limits are indeed constitutional, as there are presidential term limits codified in the U.S. Constitution via the 22nd Amendment. The California Constitution also mandates legislative term limits through Proposition 28, limits on legislators, as well as Article 5, Section 2 of the California Constitution, restricting California governors and respective statewide officials to 2 terms in office during their lifetime. Thank you for your time and attention. Mr. Mayor, that concludes all public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and open it back up to my council colleagues. Mayor Pro Tem Stewart, you were speaking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with term limits. I do think 3 terms is a more correct. For one, you got to get elected 3 times. I mean, that goes without saying. People kind of assume. I mean, Brendan is sitting here, a testament to the fact that the new districting we had to go through changed how we elect our public officials. I mean, Brendan was a relative unknown, and he beat a very popular incumbent. And so, do I think we necessarily need them? Not necessarily, but I think it's good for the city as far as keeping the rotation of fresh ideas and new things. So I don't have a problem with it. I do think we need to clarify or codify the 12 years. Is it consecutive? What happens if a city councilman gets turned out after 1 term and then wants to come back and run again? Is he allowed to, or she allowed to? You know, so that's something I think it should be a 12-year period, not necessarily 3 consecutive terms, because that allows for, after 2 terms, you get booted for whatever reason, and you want to come back in 4 years, and it allows you to do that. So.
Okay. Councilmember Alexander, are you ready?
Well, this is exciting because now it's finally coming back again. So I'm glad to hear that, Brendan. I appreciate you bringing this up because this was something very dear to my heart, and just however we need to get it on there and work together to get term limits put on. I say the biggest thing, give the power back to the people. It's their vote, you know. And so I'm all for it. I'm not going to even kill this horse. I'm just going to say I'm going for it. And I'd like, again, to just be able to also talk about what that looks like. I think, Stu, you brought up a good point. But what I'm thinking possibly also, can we have, if let's say I come in and let's just say 2,000, maybe we have a 12-year time period, so that 3 years they can come in at any point in time. That's another possibility. Does that make sense? So they have those, they can come in and out within those 12 years. Is another possibility. I'm just throwing out ideas of how we can do it, but I don't think anybody should be serving more than 12 years on a city council either. So, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with term limits. The presentation by Bob Cow educated me on why a city would elect to do 8 years. So a sitting council member at that time would only do a maximum of 12. And so now we're asking for, or on consideration is 12 years. And so myself and Brendan potentially, if elected 4 times, would do a total of 16, right? And so coming in, I didn't know if this was something that needed to be approved by council. Now that I know that it's something that needs to be approved by the voters, it's something that I'd support the voters voting on.
All right. So I'm going to be the wah in the room. I'm not a huge fan of term limits, honestly. We went through this last year. I think that when we say we want to open up opportunity, opportunity is there for people to run, and you still have to run. And I think maybe this is the only profession where people can come and say, you all suck, and we nod and we go, yeah, those people in Sacramento, they do, or those people in DC, they do. I don't think that about the people that I know here that are either past council members or current council members. I think a lot of the success we've had as a community is due to the fact that you had a pretty solid council for a number of years. Today, the groundbreaking was a testament to that. I don't think French Valley Parkway Phase 2 would be where it is today, to be nearly completed in 2 years, had we not had continuity on the council as long as we did. Even in the federal government, I could point to Congressman Calvert, who carried a huge bucket of water, so much so that it had $50 million in it. If there were term limits in Congress, we wouldn't probably see that money. So I think I look at it from a couple of different perspectives. We want to provide opportunity. We can do that in a number of ways. Ranked choice voting is a great way to provide opportunity to new people to break in. We can look at campaign finance. I don't necessarily think that giving the power back to the people by taking away their opportunity to vote for someone is the right choice. I just don't. So fundamentally disagree with that. I heard the quote, people don't know what they're doing. That's problematic when we have $80, $90 million annual budget. This isn't an HOA, no offense to anyone that sits on an HOA. This is not a club. This is government where their lives are impacted and affected. And I think that it's important to have experience on a council. This council is highly inexperienced. There isn't a person on here that served more than 5.5 or so years. I'm only in my second term, and we have 2 brand new members and another member who's only served 2 years. But the people spoke, and Councilmember Kalfas, you're a testament to the fact that you actually still have to campaign. It's not fun to campaign. I don't think anyone enjoys it. It's a lot of hard work. So to say that it's a walk in the park to get elected is a huge overstatement. It is very difficult to do it. So I think there's ways that we can provide opportunity to get people in. And some of that is creating commissions, right? Some of that is creating opportunity for new people to get engaged with the city. learn what we're doing here and understand your roles and responsibilities. Fresh ideas don't always equal, in fact, rarely equal good ideas. So I have a problem with that. If we were purely looking at things from like a rational choice perspective, I would want to put Temecula first. And if having no term limits in our city provides people opportunity to serve on regional boards and move their way through some broader conversations regionally, and are able to sit on executive committees, or are able to build relationships, that's important. Some of our surrounding cities have term limits and they cycle through people. It takes a while to get on these committees and be effective on these committees. I have a problem with that. So I think if I feel we're putting Temecula first, not individually, I think it's important that we don't have term limits, because I think that those relationships are great. Having continuity here, I think it's also important at the staff level. I think it's important to provide stable leadership over the years, and I think we would see that, and we have seen that historically, and I'm speaking just about Temecula. I think that it's important on those levels as well. Only a quarter of the cities have them, so we're not behind the curve. We're kind of right there. I understand the argument, though. I really do. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. I think you can make some cases, and you try to make a case for it and against it, and I'm making a case against it. I think districting has done a number on running on council members here, and it makes it it lowers the bar, I gotta say, a little bit to run for office. You're not running at large. You can go knock on a few thousand doors and connect with the voters in a way that's meaningful and something that resonates. And I think that's the most important thing, that there are just messages that don't resonate and people don't get elected or reelected. And there's messages that resonate with people and they get elected or they get reelected, right? I would just hate to blanketly say you can only serve 2 terms or 3 terms, whatever it ends up being, and taking that vote away from people, because I think we're doing a disservice to the broader conversation, if you will, about our city and what's our city going to look like in 50 years. If it goes either way, if it goes to the voters, it will pass. And I said that when we talked about it last time, because I think the sentiment is such that the arguments that people make, they ascribe from the federal and the state level, they push that down on here. And there's people in the audience that would love to see me gone after a few years. There's people in the audience that would love to see each one of us gone in a few years, right? But I'm talking about the health of the total city, not a pocket of people, not a group of people, the entire city. And if we look at it from that perspective of being sort of the leader in the region, I think we hinder ourselves with term limits. And that's my dissertation. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, I came here thinking the same, but it's not about me per se. And, having this on the agenda tonight, knowing 2 weeks ago it was going to be on the agenda, no one's reached out to me in opposition of term limits, constituents. And so all I can do at this point is take it back out to them by supporting it tonight. And I'm like you, I think it's going to pass as well. And if it does, it's something that they wanted, right? And so.
I agree with you. I think the thing that I struggle with is this wasn't brought by initiative, right? I've literally, other than the people that are here, I've not talked to anybody that said, we need term limits. It's a small pocket of people, let's just be honest. When that translates to the voters, they'll see it and they'll be like, get those people out of there. It's like, we understand that. I understand that. I just don't think it's good for the city, and that's why we're here.
12 years is a long time.
Mm-hmm. If I can add something just to just put this on a positive note, You know, each one of us brings something very special to this council. Every one of us has our gifts and talents that we bring. And that is one of the nice things about having term limits, is we have a rotation of that. So whether somebody's really good economically, whether somebody's good with public safety, we continue to get fresh blood from that perspective. And that's another reason why I really can support this, is because it can continue to keep our city new and fresh and be able to continue to move forward rather than really be stagnant in a lot of respects. So Curtis, I agree with what you said, and if the people want it, that's what they get. We work for them. So thank you.
Another concern of mine was another comment that was made regarding short terms and staff having to, train council members or re-educate them on history. But I think within that 12 years, that shouldn't be necessarily an issue.
I will say, to Zach's point about regional commissions, Riverside County has like 5 or 6 of them that we all take part in. And it is a learning curve. And, people think, 2 terms should be enough. And it's like, I'm telling you, government moves at such a snail's pace that you put a project in motion, and the freeway is a perfect example. We just broke ground, and that started 20 years ago. So everybody who had anything to do with pushing that project forward is gone, So it literally takes that long to move anything like that along. So I understand Zach's point totally, especially from a regional standpoint, because you do build up a reputation, you build up relationships with other cities and other regional groups that you can push Temecula's interests forward in those groups once they see you as a leader. And sometimes it takes time to do that. You just don't walk in and just, go to the head of the line, so I totally get that. 12 years is a long time, so it's, again, I can support that, but I do want to have a caveat. If we do the 12 years, that it does not have to be consecutive, that it could be 12 years, it could be 4 and 8, it could be 8 and 4, it could be whatever. But I think it gives someone the opportunity, if the times were just an incredibly crazy time and they got put out because, and the public all of a sudden realized, we like this person after all, give them a chance to be able to come back in and finish what he or she had begun. So that would be my suggestion.
Councilmember Brown?
There's no fiscal impact when putting the ordinance together for the ballot, or because it said there was no fiscal impact, so it's not.
Yeah, so there's no fiscal impact with putting the ordinance together. Obviously, there will be a fiscal impact associated with having a ballot measure on the election, for the election, general municipal election. But we're pretty confident that that would be covered in the 2024 annual operating budget for our department.
Okay. All right, well, we'll try to craft a motion, and I do want to make one final statement. It was maybe said, or I don't think it was intentional, but that this is about us individually. Personally, I would get 3 more terms, right? I would be able to serve 5 terms total. No, I'm not serving 5 terms. So like that's insane. So I don't want people to think, oh, this is about me and whatnot. I think this is wrong for the city, and I'm going to vote that way. So
I do have a few more comments, Mayor, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I agreed with a lot of what each one of you said, really. And my predecessor, her slogan was "Experience Matters," and you talked about experience in city council. And my comeback to that statement was experience in what? And I think the people of Temecula, and especially my district, agreed with me that experience in politics matters, but experience in other things matters possibly even more than experience in politics. And I think you said that the new ideas, well, there's 7 out of, I think, 26 cities in Riverside County that have it, and new ideas always start out in small groups. Usually it's not the majority that start new ideas. It starts out small, and it gains traction, and more catch on. So even if we're the 8th out of 26 cities, I would argue in 10 years, it would be 16 out of 26, and so on and so forth. But really, this is about limiting our individual power. And I know people would want to serve on city council for 16 to 20 years, but I think the people would overwhelmingly support this. And if you truly cared about the city and you wanted to still serve the city, you can serve on commissions, and there are many other opportunities within the city that you can do besides city council. And the statement that resonated with me was, Mayor, when you said if it goes to the voters, it will pass. That was enough for me to solidify my position on this. And I just want to say that I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem, with the 12 years doesn't have to be consecutively. I would also say that we put this to city council specific, because I know it is possible for a city council to say we want to have an elected treasurer. So I would say this would only pertain to city council specific. So if a future city council did want to elect or have an elected treasurer, which we do not have in Temecula, that would not pertain to that or another position created by a future city council, if that makes sense.
Okay, if there are no more comments, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
I will make a motion for 3 terms, 12 years, does not have to be consecutive, and pertaining to the elected position of city council specifically.
And I second that.
Madam City Clerk, does that satisfy your 5-point question?
Yeah, I want to walk through that really quickly. So what I'm hearing from the city council is that the majority of the city council wishes to have term limits. With respect to what number of terms, they wish to have 3. With respect to whether or not they want them to run with or without a break, what I'm hearing is you are fine with a break and you have no limitations on what number that break is. So somebody could run, serve 4 years, 15, 20 years later, they could come back and serve 4 more years, 15, 20 years later, they could come back, serve 4 more years. You have no desire to in any way limit that, okay?
I would say a lifetime term limit of 3
That
terms.
sounds great. And then are you good with, the last one is the proposal, are you good with placing it on the 2024 ballot?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I
Okay.
have a motion from Councilmember Kalfas, I believe, and a second from Councilmember Stewart, I believe.
Alexander.
Alexander. And then we'll go ahead and start the voting.
Okay, that passes 4-1. Thank you, guys. Everyone. Okay, we're moving on to items for future agenda. Anyone have an item for future agenda?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
I would like to bring back what's her name? Laura's thought on the
Rental
Yes.
ordinance for affordable housing
Yes.
purposes only?
To at least have that conversation, because I think there's a lot to this that people who live in those facilities don't quite understand. And I think if we had that in public, we had that conversation, had a staff report, and actually talked about it, it might solve a lot of.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwenk, Mayor Pro Tem Stewart. Right now, what I hear you saying is you would like to place an item on a future agenda.
Yes.
It will be rent control for affordable housing purposes only.
Yes.
At the next meeting, it will come back and the council can vote to place it on the agenda or not.
Yes, yes.
May I, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem? Certainly that can be done, but would you consider an alternative option in having a dedicated 2-member subcommittee on affordable housing set up prior to coming back to the full council? Meaning, and this is set up in the way future agenda items are. I believe,
Right.
Mr. City Attorney, I have discussion on
That
that.
would be part of the discussion on the 28th.
Okay, as part of
as
his
to have
3
it on the
minutes
next-
at the next meeting. Okay, I'm planting a seed for
Right.
2 weeks from
Okay.
now. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just want to confirm, next city council meeting we have on the agenda, the item I proposed believe, 2 weeks ago.
Yes, we actually, under items for future agendas, we will now have this rent control ordinance for affordable housing to vote upon, the police department to vote upon, and the fire department item to vote upon.
Thank you.
Okay, and since I love this part of the agenda so much, I'm going to add an item that I'd like to bring back to discuss tightening up items for future city council agendas. I think we can make some tweaks to the process that we're doing, make it streamline a little bit quicker so it isn't that 3-meeting process. I'd like to bring that back for discussion. Okay, anyone else? Okay, city manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, it was mentioned multiple times tonight, but seeing the large crowd still here. You know, today was a historic day for the city of Temecula on so many levels. The French Valley Parkway Phase 2 broke ground. And yeah, we can clap. This is a project that has been 20 years in the making. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I was here. Me and a few people were here talking about a concept and chasing a price tag that we didn't know that we would ever catch. And I'm so proud of this city. I'm so proud of the efforts that were put forward. We had good fortune. We had Congressman Ken Calvert carried a huge amount of water in securing the $50 million, which closed the gap on a $138 million freeway project. We all know we're not in the business of doing freeway projects, but nevertheless, here we find ourselves exercising our leadership as a city. And I couldn't have been more proud of what we put forward today. So to the residents, the business community, the city of Temecula, we're going to be under construction on I-15 for the next 24 months. It will be some pain, but the goal behind this project is to relieve the daily congestion and the daily grind of this project that we all observe every day at 3 o'clock. So super proud, Pat, you, your team, everybody involved, the city council. It was a good day out there today on breaking ground, so thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you very much, Aaron. And I am surprised everyone left. Like, come on, like 5 more minutes, you could have stayed. I see a few happy faces back there. City Attorney's report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we had a closed session tonight. We have no reportable actions under the Brown Act from that closed session.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to our adjournment tonight, and I have a slide I want to throw up really quickly. We were just notified that Richard Dick Fox recently passed. He was a longtime city employee who worked at the History Museum, as well as past president and founding member of the Temecula Valley Historical Society, along with his wife, Charlotte. After retiring from her career in printing industry, he maintained a passion for printing and the printed word, and served as an editor on the Historical Society's monthly newsletter. During his decades of service to the community, he shared his passion for preserving local history with countless visitors, young and old. With his humor, wit, and knowledge, he brought history to life in a way that few can. Dick will be deeply missed, even as his impact lives on. We send his family our heartfelt condolences, especially his wife Lottie, who also served on the Community Services Commission for many years. And you'll see some photos there. When I was appointed to the commission, both Dick and Lottie welcomed me with open arms as a youngster on that commission, and he was just a wonderful, wonderful man and will be greatly missed in our community. So tonight we're going to adjourn in the honor and memory of Dick Fox after a brief moment of silence. We are adjourned. Rest in peace, Dick.